So yeah, just a little bit about us. DSDHA, we are a transdisciplinary practice. We work between architecture, urban and landscape, and research. That's not to say that they're siloed, but that we treat every project as a project for the city. So the city is our client, and we always look beyond the red line boundary. Recently, we've been trying to frame our research through the lens of spatial justice, recognizing the intersectionality of issues such as the climate emergency, the health crisis, social injustice, and of course, the rising cost of living. And sort of acknowledging the fact that the designers are very well placed to address these issues in a more holistic way. We will be focusing on two pieces of research, just very briefly. Firstly, Highways and Footways Accessibility Guidelines, which was a collaborative study with Transport for London, the body for transport and mobility in London, and 10 London local authorities, looking at best practices for inclusivity and accessibility. And then secondly, a piece funded by the RRBA on co-design and spatial justice. The last cover here is just a shout out to Spanish speakers that might know the University of Navarra, which we also do a lot of research and teaching in. With the Highways and Footways accessibility, we collaboratively identified the key issues that are affecting officers and highways designers today in London. And they range from historic issues such as female safety, which unfortunately is still an issue, and more contemporary issues such as shared use, inclusive cycle infrastructure, and alternative crossings. And from here, we took the approach to survey the full spectrum of users on our roads and streets, and developed a methodology that registered the more nuanced users. So say for cyclists, we're not just acknowledging the high-speed, lycra-clad white male on his carbon steel bike, but the tourist on the rented bike, people on adapted cycles, etc. So some of these issues, this is an example, female safety. This document is envisioned to be a tool for officers and designers to consult with. So there's a very succinct summary of each of these issues and a signposting to relevant resources and recommendations. So say for female safety, we promoted gender mainstreaming methodologies in consultation, design development, and mentoring. Which is something that we do in our practice. For a lot of our projects, we do this exercise called 100 Journeys. So embedding designers on the ground, speaking to 100 different users of the site, whether they're residents, whether they're transient users, whether they're school children, and sometimes doing targeted site walks with specific user groups. In this case, in central Somerstown, we did specific site walks with Somali Muslim women, where certain users are more comfortable in engaging with designers in that manner, in that type of environment. The other issue that came up was designing for neurodiversity. Although this is not a new issue, there is increasing literacy in what this means, and sort of the acknowledgement that all of us here on the call is on the neurodiverse spectrum with different neurodiversity needs. And this is especially important with the associated issues in aging populations. Won't go into this in detail, but just as an example, in public space, designing for neurodiversity often means designing spaces that are flexible enough and open enough with different spatial conditions so that people with hypersensitivities or hyposensitivities can curate their own spatial experience in a big space. So some who might want stimulation would stay in the amphitheater here, for example, or some who would want more privacy and separation from the main activity would choose to stay within pockets of intimacy. Moving on to tools, we have been developing this tool called Place Pace tool, which is intended to be both an analytical tool and a design tool for officers and designers to understand and design for a site. And going clockwise, it sort of addresses three core issues or themes. One is the city network scale, so understanding the site in the context of the wider network, mobility network. The second theme being activity, so understanding temporal activity over time, be it from summer to winter or day to night. And then lastly, specific behaviors of all the different users that you see on the wheel. And of course, this is also only representative. So the QR code leads you to the document that contains more information about this tool. And just lastly, very briefly, we have been working on this piece of research with the RIBA titled Towards Spatial Justice, looking at how to embed co-design processes better in conventional architectural projects. And this is something that we are working in parallel with ACD, the organizers, to look at how we can translate co-design processes onto the RIBA plan of work. For those who are not familiar, this is a template that is being used in the UK for clients, for designers, for the public sector to sort of pace projects and to cost projects. So we're hoping to create an overlay, as you would for procurement or for sustainability, to sort of match or map co-design processes with wider project programs. And this we're doing in collaboration with practitioners around the world and in the UK, and sort of recognizing that the current sort of vocabulary of traditional roles in a project is not inclusive enough. So when we're speaking about inclusivity in language, we want to make sure that all the people that are associated with sites have their voice in the design process. I think I'll end there and we can chat more. Thank you for your time.